In the last several videos, we've been learning how we can switch between custom themes and also pre-built themes. Now in this video, we'll add some radio buttons or radio inputs to the top of the page, and we'll allow the user to select between the different themes that they want. But before we start implementing this, let's check out the documentation, the Angular material documentation, and then select Guides, and then under the theming Angular material, then select multiple themes over here on the right. Then here they have an example on how we could add multiple themes. We're already doing something like this. We're adding a theme using the theme mixin to our HTML, but here they're adding another one and adding it to a class, and that's what we'll do. I'll copy this example they have here. Now we'll be implementing 3 different color palettes, and here they have a list of the color palettes, pre-built color palettes. And I'm thinking just picking the top 3, the red, green, and blue, these 3 here. Feel free to pick whatever one you prefer. Now let's add these 3 color palettes to our style sheet. Inside of our main style sheet, right below the HTML tag, I'll paste in that example, and then we'll update it. So instead of this long class name, I'll call it red. And then instead of using this, we'll rename that to red. And then let's clean this up a little bit. I'll save it. It should format it if I save it. Okay, that's better. Now that's 1. Now we need 2 more. 1 for the green and 1 for the blue. So I'll copy this and then paste it 2 more times. And then just rename it to green. And don't forget to update the palette as well. And here we'll do blue. And blue here as well. Now before we implement our radio inputs, let's test this in the browser. A way we could test this is by adding a class to this HTML here right within the developer tools. Right at the end here, I add in the class attribute, and then we'll test the red first, I guess. And as you can see, our color has updated to red, and we'll test the other 2 while we're here, green. And it switches over to green, and then I'll update it to blue. And that works as well. Now that we implemented a couple color palettes the user could use, now let's create a couple Angular material inputs, radio inputs at the top up here, so they can select between the themes. And if we go back to the documentation and go to components, and then scroll down to the radio buttons, this one right here. And I'm thinking of implementing something like this so they'll be able to select between red, blue, and green. Looking at the code example, we'll add in some HTML like that within our pages component. But before we do that, we'll need to set up our TS file and bring in this radio module. I'll copy this. And then we'll open up the pages TS file. And this pages component acts as a wrapper for the rest of our components, like the dashboard component and all of these other components. So we'll add it to this component here. I'll import the mat radio module at the top here, and then copy this and make sure we add it to the imports. And that's it for this file. Next, we'll update the HTML, the template. And up here at the top, right below the breadcrumbs, I'll add in another snippet, and we have a title. And then here I'm using the Angular material elements to create our radio inputs. And then we got green, red, and blue. Before we add the functionality to this, let's view this in the browser again. Okay, we have a title and we have 3 radio inputs. Now let's implement the functionality for these inputs. Let's start off by reviewing the theme service. This theme service was automatically created for you if you're following along with the course, and you can find that at the services folder at the app level and theme service. And the basic job of this theme service is to just update the HTML element for the project right here to in this case, a color. So when the user changes the color, this gets called and updates the HTML. That's basically what this theme service does. So we're managing 3 different states, the mode, and this will get implemented in the next couple of videos. the color, and the current theme. I'm using Angular's Signal to manage the state, and this is Angular computed. We're using that as well. For now, it's just getting the color. Later on, we will implement this and it will get the mode and the color, the computed value for that. But for now, we're just using this one. Now, how this color is set is by calling this method. So if you call this method and you pass in green, red, or blue, that updates this, causing this to update. And whenever this updates, this effect kicks in, updating the class, the HTML class attribute, to the color. Also, I'm storing it to local storage. And this is so when the user refreshes the page, the color they selected will persist. Now let's use this service by calling this method from within our page component. So we'll open up the page HTML. Actually, the TS file will start in there. And then inside of the constructor, we're already pulling in the theme service. So I already laid the groundwork for that. And I set it to public so we could call on this theme service the set color method from within our template, the HTML. Now let's set up our HTML. And here we'll add a change event. Whenever any of these buttons are updated, call on the set color, passing in the value. And the value is one of these colors. This should update our theme. Let's test this. One thing I noticed when we first load this page, our theme is not selected by default, and we'll resolve that soon. But if we now select the blue color, you'll notice that the class within the HTML updates. That goes for the red and green. That's good. And then also our colors down here update our theme to red, red, and blue. So all that's working really good. We'll also move this custom theme builder and this toggle button component section to the bottom. So when we're selecting between themes, we don't have to scroll down to see our theme update. Let's first set a selected theme to one of our radio inputs by default when the page first loads. And we'll start off in the TS file. And the first thing we'll do is we'll create a brand new property, and I'll place it right under the breadcrumb here. And this is called selected color, and you'll be able to set this to 3 different colors, the green, red, and blue. And by default, we'll be setting it to green. And then when the component first loads, within the constructor, we'll set this selected color. So right below here, we'll set this selected color by the color that's already in theme service. So this is basically overriding when the page first loads this color. Now from our template, we could two-way bind to this by using the ng model. But to use the ng model, you need to make sure you're pulling in the forms module. And here I'm importing it from Angular Forms. That's all we need to do within the TS file. Now back in the HTML, we'll add the ng model to the Mat Radio button group. And we'll bind to that new property that we set up within the TS file. That should set our default when we first load the page. Now let's update the dashboard component and move those theme builder buttons to the bottom. And let's select this toggle button component and this custom theme builder right here. Select these two. I'm just going to cut them out and move them all the way to the bottom. And now we don't need to scroll every time we're testing and we're clicking on the inputs. Save that. And now we're ready to test in the browser one last time. Okay, this is a good sign. So here on page load, when we first load the page, the class is set to green and we have a green color selected. If we select red, and if I refresh it, it sets it to red, and it's setting this to red by default. So that's working. Also, our buttons are at the top now. So when we're testing, we don't have to scroll down every time when we want to test it. So that's good. And that's how you implement a theme picker. In the next couple videos, let's start implementing the dark and light mode, and we'll work on that next.